Hey, Tracy.
Good morning, brother. How are you?
I'm pretty good. How you doing?
Can't complain, man.
You know, I guess a couple weeks ago, and I don't know if you run your own Twitter account or not, but I was, and kind of what inspired me to reach out to you again, because I've seen you pretty recently, but I was listening to Me A Birmingham, and
Yep.
there's that key change right in that double chorus, and I was like, man, this thing still hits hard. Like when you go up a key, I'm just like, holy crap. So I was thinking about that song, and I was like, yeah, I hadn't talked to Tracy in a while. I kind of wanted to catch up a little bit. So first of all, I appreciate you coming on. Second of all, when I started to look up Me A Birmingham, I realized it peaked at number 4. It wasn't even a number 1 song.
No, it wasn't. It was, and probably, other than Time Marches On, Birmingham's probably the biggest impact record that I had. And it was, it barely got top 5, man. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it says it peaked at 4 in this chart, but why is that? Like, what at that point kept it from hitting 1? Was it, were radio people going, bad research? Or what were they saying?
I was on DreamWorks at the time, and DreamWorks had a lot of momentum. It was a big record. I don't know if they just had fought it as long as they wanted to fight it and let it go. I mean, I don't know. That was Scott Borchetta's deal back at the time. But I thought it, even though it didn't go number 1, that song has been just as impactful, if not bigger, than most of the number 1 records that I've had over the years. I mean, I close the show with it every night, and it brings the house down.
Yeah, I mean, it brings the house down when I'm streaming it. I mean, and that's just my house. So, well, a couple things I want to talk to you about for a second. We're going through this, renaissance again from back when I was a kid in the 90s and a teenager, and, when, you had a ton of your early success. Why in the world do you think we're looking back at the 90s now as, like, the beloved decade for country music?
I think it was just such a great, it was really a magical time for country music, man. There was that young country energy that had swept the country. In 89, it all started in 89 with Garth Brooks and Clint Black and Travis Tritt and Alan Jackson and Mark Chestnut. That was the beginning of it. And that explosion drove so many of us to come to Nashville. I mean, because by the time we got into the early 90s, it was traditional country with an edge to it. And I really think that we're going to look back on the 90s as kind of like what classic rock is to the country these days. It's going to be that music that sustains for a long, long time. There was just something really special about it.
With you, and I'm not sure if you were down at SAU or, whenever, but right before you decided to move to Nashville, but what was the thing that kind of pushed you over the edge where it's like, all right, crap, I got to go. Like, I can't do it if I don't.
I had left SAU. I did 2.5 years at SAU, and I'd gone back into the workforce for a little bit. I wound up moving to Louisiana, and I was playing in a circuit band and doing just odd jobs down there. I was living in Ruston, Louisiana at the time, and I had re-enrolled in Ruston in Louisiana Tech there at Ruston, and I was supposed to start classes in the fall. I got my Pell Grant approved, and all that stuff was going on. I was going to go back and finish my degree, and all that music from '89 came out, and I was sitting there thinking, if I wind up going back to college, I'm never going to go to Nashville. If I'm going to do it, I need to do it now. And I canceled the gigs, played the last weekend with the band, packed my car up, and came to Tennessee.
Okay, so did you have one car? Did you have a trailer? Like, kind of let me see what you moved here.
I had a piece of crap Toyota Corolla with about 250,000 miles on it. And the car is still sitting in my pasture right now. Some kids have shot it full of bullet holes. It's still out there in the pasture. So I played my last gig in Spring Hill, Louisiana at Bill's New Country, and they took a collection up at the door to help me get to Nashville. I think I had $700 in my pocket and a beat-up old car, and that is all I had except what I could pack in that car.
So what kind of place do you move into? What kind of place did you move into when you got here?
There was a guy from back home, and I called his mom on the way up here now. I'd never been to Nashville before, really didn't know anybody, and he let me stay on the couch for a couple of weeks. I wound up getting a job. I got on work with a construction company over in Portland, Tennessee, and I was working on a big warehouse that they were building, hanging metal siding on it. I got my feet on the ground. Every night I would go out and meet the road musicians and the songwriters and everything at all the local watering holes downtown. And I wound up getting room and board with a drummer named Terry Buttram that was actually from Texarkana, and wound up staying with him. He put my first band together when I got my record deal. Things happened really fast, though, because I got to town in September of 1990. By December, I was on a show called Live at Libby's over in Daysville, Kentucky. That was an Opry-style show that broadcast back into Nashville on one of the Kentucky radio stations every Saturday night. Some executives from Atlantic Records had come to that show in December to see somebody else, and they liked me better. I did a showcase in January at the Bluebird Cafe, which is where I met Rick Blackburn. They agreed to sign me. In May of '91, I cut Sticks and Stones and had 3 #1 records in the top 5 off of it.
Insane. Here's Sticks and Stones. Let me play a little bit of Sticks and Stones. I know every word of this song. When you were in school, Tracy, were you the music guy? Were you the guy that always had a guitar beating around, or did your friends even know?
Oh,
that
yeah.
you were?
I was the guy that John Belushi would have taken it out of my hands and bashed it against the wall.
When you were in high
I
school?
went to church camp, man. I had a 12-string guitar, dude. Oh, yeah, I did come by you all that stuff.
So at church, because listen, there was always church camp, and I went to Spring Lake church camp every year, and there was always one cool kid that could play guitar. And for me, whenever I was a kid, it was mostly Oasis, Wonderwall. They could always play that. They could play a couple Garth songs, and that was about it. But were you that kid?
You know, I was. I could play quite a bit. Most of my stuff was like real traditional country. I was really big time into George Strait and Merle Haggard. Those were my 2 guys. Of course, you had guys like Randy Travis that came out in the early 80s, so I would play On the Other Hand and 1982 and that kind of stuff. So there was a whole lot of music from that era that were more of the baritone singers that I just absolutely fell in love with. And most of it was pretty straightforward stuff. I mean, we didn't get really into intricate chord changes and stuff till you got into more of the pop country. So most of it was pretty straightforward. 3 or 4 chords. It was pretty easy.
In a few minutes, I'm going to ask you about, Made in America, your latest record, and doing your own record label, and because that's always so interesting to me. But I want to hit a couple songs real quick because "Can't Break It to My Heart" was my teenage anthem. Like, I hear this song. You know how you hear a song, and for me, it puts me back in Central Arkansas, 13 years old, listening to Kiss in '96, hearing this song right here. Did you hear songs still in your life that put you back in those spots?
Yeah, I do. A lot, especially a lot of the stuff from the early '80s. Because that was such a developmental time for me. From the time I was, preteen, early teen, 12, 13, 14 years old, all that music had such a big impact on me because I was really, it was forming part of my identity because it was becoming a big part of who I was because everything to me revolved around music. From going to junior high prom to and not even just country stuff. Purple Rain was like our theme song for the prom. I graduated in '86, so all that music that came through, I hear Van Halen songs, and they remind me of my buddy. My running buddy had a '69 Chevelle, and we listened to a lot of Van Halen during the summer. So all those songs, man, they bring back those great memories.
At this point in my career, because I just turned 40, so now I have people going, "Hey, I used to listen to you when I was like 8 years old," and I'm like, "Holy crap, I'm getting a little older." It's got to be wild too when you're out and there's like a 25-year-old that's like, "Man, Tracy Lawrence, I was listening to you when I was like 4." That's got to be crazy, right?
My favorite's when, "Man, my grandmother loves you." But you know what? I've seen the highs and lows of the business, and I really have learned to take it all in stride, man. Just to kind of still be somewhat relevant and have a fan base out there that allows me to work. I'm so appreciative of it. I don't think I understood. You get inside the bubble when your career takes off and you're focused on all that and you got all the people around you and you got your bubble and all that. You lose perspective of just how special it is because it's something that very few people get to do. They don't get to take that journey. They don't get to feel the ride and the emotions of feeling a record go up the chart and seeing the impact that it has on the public and the way that it changes the crowd. And, it's like getting on top of a wave is the only way to describe it. It's like riding the top of a wave on a surfboard, and the ultimate goal is to try to sustain that ride as long as you can,
What wave was the biggest and hardest? Like you put out, was it Time Marches On? Was it Texas Tornado where you put it out and it's like, holy crap, hold on, because here we go?
Man, there were several of them. I mean, that initial first wave when Sticks and Stones took off, man, it was life-changing for me. And I remember hearing Sticks and Stones in the car radio for the first time, and just the chills that it gave me. I literally had to pull over the side of the road and sit there and freaking cry, you know. But then you come back with Alibis. Alibis was a massive hit back in '93. And then, I mean, so there's just something powerful about the way that those records impacted back then. And I guess songs still impact that way for artists nowadays. But back then, you could feel the ground shake underneath your feet. And as a record would move up the charts, you know, it had a feel to it when it hit top 40, and then by the time it got top 20 and top 10, it got more intense. Just the way the fans would sing the song back to you. By the time a record got top 5 into number 1, you could feel the ground move underneath your feet. There's no other way to describe it.
You know, when you put out the album last year, Made in America, you know, it's your latest record, and I'm curious as because you have such a distinct sound that people know you for. Like, how do you walk that fine line of, because we all grow as people, as artists. You know, we don't want to be the same person we were 20 years ago, but how did you grow but still stay the same when you're making new music, but people know you from, again, Sticks and Stones and Alibis and If the Good Die Young?
This album was really different in a lot of ways because I'd never written as much for a record. This album, I wrote like 8 of the 12 tracks on it. 3 of the other tracks came from songwriters in my publishing company, stuff that I'd known for a while. So they basically all but one song came out of my camp. The one song that didn't is a Stapleton Sean Camp song called "Giving Mama Reasons to Pray." And I know this sounds crazy, but I really always lacked self-confidence in my own songwriting. I'd had it. Can't Break It was one that I wrote. Front Porch was one that I wrote. Stars Over Texas I wrote. But I'd always tried to beat my own songs out with things I found from other publishing companies. As I was looking for material for this record, I just couldn't find what I was looking for, and I wound up really just knuckling down and writing this record. And I'd never forced myself to do that before. And I think it finally shined through. I think I cut a record that I'm really proud of from top to bottom, more so than I have been any of them in the last several years. And I just felt more of a connection to it, and I felt like I delivered it better than I had anything else in a long time.
Yeah, you guys check out Made in America. Your own record label, what kind of responsibility is that now?
You know, it's not too bad. It's basically just an imprint. We've got a distribution company with the Orchard, and they take care of so much of the other stuff. So basically, I'm really hands-on during the recording process. You know, the way we market things through social media and with secondary radio and with streaming platforms is really different nowadays. So, you know, I'm involved in what's going on, but I got a great management company that takes care of most of it. So it's nothing like when we were on a major and we were out doing radio tours and working radio all the time. It's a whole different thing. It's much more laid back these days.
All right. Well, let me end with this question. If you look back at all your trophies or plaques or different souvenirs, like what is it that you have that you look at and go, man, I look at that, it reminds me of something awesome and it means the most to me?
Oh, wow. You know, I know this is going to sound strange to a lot of people. When my wife and I started our family, my wife and I have been together 22 years. We have a daughter that's a sophomore in college, one that's a senior this year. And when we started our family, we made the conscious decision that we didn't want them to try to keep up with what I had accomplished and the things that I'd done in my life. There are no platinum records on my walls, no gold records. There are no trophy mantles, no trophy cases. I've got a collection of NFL football helmets signed by all these different people, sports memorabilia and stuff. But as far as the trophies and things from me, they're not displayed in my home.
Nice. Who's your favorite? What's your team? Who's your NFL team?
You know, I grew up a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I still have a lot of friends in Dallas. I'm very connected to that program. But, you know, we're here in Tennessee. We got to support our Titans. I'm anxious for football to start back this year. I hope we're going to have somewhat of some normalcy with some football coming back. You know, we'll just have to wait and see. It's been a crazy year, man.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, Tracy, you know I love you. Follow at The Real Tracy Lawrence. Just such a big fan of your music. And then even as a person now, you continue to grow and do things for the community and make music. And, you know, I admire that. So thank you for your time, and thanks for just being around town, man.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you, man. Have a good day.
See you, Tracy.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Hey, guys, it's Bobby Bones. Welcome to the channel. If you're new to the channel, subscribe and then go check it out. A lot of artists, a lot of songwriters, a lot of music. Welcome to the Bobby Cash channel.